They're gonna kill the love of my life.
David!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's Thursday, and this is Venus Unplugged. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt. And Venus Unplugged is all about a virtual heartbreak hotel, a place where we discuss and explore and discover meaning. If no matter what happens in life, no matter what the heartbreak may be, or even what the joy may be, sometimes a great joy can bring heartbreak, or it can be a joy for another and not for one. But as long as it has meaning, as long as and that doesn't, meaning does not mean, oh, you'll get over it, or, oh, well, it's for the best. That is not a meaning. That's somebody who doesn't want to deal with you. When people come out with that stuff, especially when you're in the middle of a loss or a shift or a change, and someone just gives you some pat answer, they mean well, but it's annoying because it doesn't solve. If that should happen, and it certainly this summer was the summer of loss and changes, and it will shift in the end of September, so we're glad for that, or at least we will understand the meaning and be able to apply the meaning. Of course, meanings usually have to do with a symbolic meaning. We understand at a later date why we couldn't have the thing that would have harmed us the most. We always forget we're being protected because the ego thinks it's God, and it's not. And then at midlife, or what is fondly considered the second adulthood, we start realizing what the meaning is. So we're still working on dreams, and we can work on them forever because they are the language of the divine. It's the language of the soul. It's a poem written, an encrypted, coded poem about the story, the Wagnerian story of your life, of your inner world. And there are some people that don't care about that, and there are others who absolutely sense the importance of dreams, but really don't know how, because it's like anytime we face a language, and this is the language of the soul, or the language of psyche is the symbolic language, and play with it. You don't have to know immediately what it is, but you'll be drawn to a book, let's say Jung's book on the symbolism, or any book, or you'll take a course, you'll look at things, you'll talk to your friends, what do you think that is? Any attempt. Now, of course, having said that, we do need to be careful who we share our dreams with, because the dream is sacred. Okay, so I found this beautiful quote by the woman who wrote the book, The Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And she writes that all dreams are a map home to the truest self. Dreams are written in invisible ink that have to be held over a fire that is built by the soul in order to understand what is being written. Now, that pretty much says it all. If we can go in with that sense of the sacred every morning or whenever you wake up, because the dreams are coming from the other world, and these are also angelic realms. There's a saying that while writing a book, there's an angel looking over you, and it's giving you the symbols and the images. So call on your angels to just, you don't have to know their names, although it would be lovely. Sometimes that will come true in a dream. It will be revealed, because there's many types of dreams. But when we understand what this is about, and so we're writing it, and in a sense, the invisible ink is the energy that we're writing this dream down. We can't see it. What is it? But then when we put the fire of imagination or the fire of libido is kind of our sexual energy, okay? The life force. That's what I mean by sexual. Everything is sexual because everything is life-giving. And we put that, we will get an insight. Even if we just think like, gee, I wonder why that was in my dream. All right? So, it's like a mirror of the soul. Those images of what comes. So in order to start understanding the dream, do not try to understand it with your ego, because it will just bypass. Actually, that's what a nightmare is. A nightmare is a very definite symbolic dream that the soul wants to get to you, and it's bypassing the ego, because the ego says, oh, I understand that, and then stops. And that's not using creative imagination. That's stopping your creation. So when a nightmare comes, very often also when we wake up from the nightmare, and we're actually in the middle, the crescendo part of the dream, and because every dream has a bit of this chaos. So once again, I'm just going to flow through this, all right, so that you can begin to grasp the power, the wonderment, the divinity that you sleep with every night. Or perhaps it's a parallel reality. Whatever it may be, it's kind of magic. So the dream, to understand the dream, it's like a mirror of the soul, and there's a momentum in the dreams. And it's showing up, it's a picture of what our psyche's possibilities are in the moment. And it's showing us a picture in the mirror of our psyches, what we look like in the moment. Sometimes what we look like in the moment is nuts, because we're projecting, say in the outer world, we're projecting something. Or I see it in the reverse. People can have a dream, okay, let's say that their lover is unfaithful. Then you wake up and you want to kill them. It's like, how could you do this? And it's like, what? What are you talking about? I wasn't unfaithful, but you are convinced, because that's that image that's moving through you. But the truth is, you have to ask yourself, where am I being unfaithful to my psyche? Where am I being unfaithful to my soul? Now, there are times there are prophetic dreams, so there can be a touch of truth in that. But you can't tar and feather the person because you've had a dream. But sometimes people will do that, and then they'll start a whole big argument or a big projection and convinced that they're right, and then they're in a momentary possession and they can't get out of it, and they create bad blood. So the dreams are about our possibilities and what's flooding through us and what can be used creatively. And the symbolism is the world of the unconscious poetry. And you, the dream maker, or you are the receiver, the dream maker, is actually archetypal, and I bet dreams are really going to be evoked in a colossal, or sometimes you can walk into a situation and realize, wait a second, I've dreamed this. Or some people will see it as deja vu, but sometimes that's happened to me, where I've walked in and we're like, whoa, wait a second, I dreamt this. And it's the same feeling. It's really interesting when that happens. It's also exciting, because when we realize we're so much more interesting than we think we are, and love is so much more profound. And it's not just about the other. Love is about unfolding your own. Oh, my cat! I have a cat. She's an Egyptian now, and she is a big cat, and her name is She Who Must Be Obeyed. and she's named properly because she rules. She just fell over. Okay. So the dreams, they move and they change because you move and you change. So you can talk with 10 people about your dream and your interpretation, and each person will give a different insight or help you. And you'll be, wow, which one is true? Well, in that day, that one is true. This is a universal code. This is the original code before we had computers. Okay. So what's suggested is that you make a prayer over your dream, and you bless your dream. Now, you don't always wake up from the dream time and can make a prayer, but, you could put it on the top of your journal or wherever you're writing. Just a little prayer, just a little note, or do a little symbol. That means you're praying over this. And then when you rewrite it or look over it again, just be aware, because the angels are working with you. The angels are real beings. They're not like little fairies. And fairies are real beings, actually, too. Okay? So, because the dream language is guiding you through darkness. Okay? And, on the earthly plane, it's how you see yourself, but the dream is like how the soul sees the universe. It's a story. And there's holiness in dreams. But the holiness is in the mundane. It's like the fairy tale where it's not the shiny jewels that really have the power. It's the ugly stone, the ordinary stone that everybody walks by. But that has the force and the power. I think the same is true in life. The ugly experience or the plain or you're in the presence of the holy. The divine is ever present, especially in those moments when some things are not happening. Believe me, a lot is happening, okay? So we live in two worlds constantly, and you're a universal being having a human experience. This planet, this holy light of planet, who is not going to destroy itself. It will destroy us before it destroys itself. And everyone who makes a contribution to becoming whole, which is what Venus Unplugged is about, is like, let's take that heartbreak and turn it into wisdom, makes a huge contribution to the wholeness of the planet. So the way that you approach the dream is with humility, because you've just been through the two worlds. You're becoming aware of something. You're a scribe for your own soul. Dream helps us go down into the unconscious to a place that is ancient. That's Jung's work on the collective unconscious. That in the collective unconscious are all civilizations, all symbols, all languages, all religions, all beliefs, and we can draw from that. That's the treasury, so to speak, of the collective unconscious. And if we learn to go in there and recognize that the collective unconscious has every record, it's kind of like the Akashic records. All right. But that's where all the symbols mean something, and that's where the ancient stories are told, and that's why we can have such similar coding in stories and mythology. That's the realm they come from. So when we approach the dream, where it needs to be held in humility and reverence, it's a dream mirror, it's an archetypal story, it's an ancient drama. So it usually has 5 parts, okay? Now, but if we wake up in the middle of the dream, as I said, sometimes that's what the nightmare is. It's like, so the first part we have the exposition, okay, expose. We get the characters, we get the situations, we get the locations, and then it begins to tell us the story, the time, the place, the scene opens, and the curtain draws back. So that is about, you have a dream of, it's bright, it's sunny, you're in your childhood home, and you're playing with a toy or a favorite animal. Well, that lets you know, okay, the reference point for this is your childhood, certain age, the symbolism of what that animal meant to you. It lets you know, okay, here I am. This is where I am. This is where once upon a time the story goes. Then it builds into, it has like a crisis. You start going along, and suddenly you're playing with the animal, and the animal starts to bleed or hurts itself or something, okay? So that's your mounting action. It's leading up to a crisis. You're hysterical. Your beloved soul animal is wounded. What are you going to do? And you're a kid. You don't know. You don't have any power. Nobody's home. You're the only one in the dream. What's happening? So then the mounting actions leads to a crisis, something that must be done, something must be resolved, created, annihilated, something comes to a head. So you realize that, in a sense, just because I'm a kid, that doesn't mean that I can't wrap a bandage around, or I can't hold it, or I can't call 911, and suddenly the child you in the dream realizes, wait, I have access, I have power. You know, the animal represents instincts. So if we use the example of the dog is the psychopomp into the underworld, right? The loyal dog, okay? So in the child's world, or in your world, you're recognizing you had a deep connection. And that animal was, the symbol of that animal was the one that taught you how to, you know, kids are filled with imagination and magic. They're always seeing other worlds. And then they're told, you couldn't see that, but they do. So in the dream, you know, this crescendo, this crisis builds, and then you realize that there's a resolution. And the resolution is that you begin to recognize that you can help. You do have power, no matter what age. You're not stuck in this childhood process. Or if the dream you're hysterical and you can't get that, and you're left with this feeling of emptiness and despair, all right? That's what the dream is pointing to. What in today's world, today, this moment, where you're feeling helpless, powerless, a child home alone with a wounded animal that has no resolution and no one's there to help them. Now, in the adult world, we know we have access, unless, of course, we are in a complex, and the complex is just telling us that we're helpless, we're a victim. But this dream will give you resolutions. It reveals. Now, as I said, the nightmare is when there is no resolution. We just wake up hysterical, there is no resolution. But in most dreams, there is a resolution, how the dreams ends. And then, you know, the fifth stage can be how you tell the story. You can go in and retell the story of the dream when you realize, like, wait, I didn't realize I still have this feeling of helplessness, that I am a child alone and stuck in the past. So you can re-image that you call on a magician or an angel or a great healer that helps your animal, and you can see yourself as your great healer that heals the animal through love, that your love is the thing that gets the animal out of danger. That a kind of dream like that can also be warning that your body is in danger. What are you doing that is childlike and creating danger in your body? Are you partying too hard? Eating foods that you're allergic to? or, wanting somebody to love you who's really not good for you. That's always a hard one. When the divine says no, when fate says no. If we really could accept no, it'd be a much different world. You'd be much happier because it'd be like, no, that's not the divine plan for you, and I know how difficult that is. When I get a no, I talk to my inner one, my little ones, the little Von Trapp family within, and try to help them understand that we're now in the middle of an adventure. The no just means you got the wrong hint. It's like charades. It's like, no, you didn't understand that properly. You may think this is the resolution or this is the person, but it's not. All that the no is telling you is like, make a left, make a right, look at it another way. Sometimes I'll just go to, I've got thousands of books. I love books. And I'll just go to a book and I'll open up the book. And there's always a message there. There are always messages. So that's when we're working with the resolution is when we wake up to the other side and really honor, and you'll be astounded over time how profound dreams are. Now I'm giving you just a very simple example, and sometimes the simplest dream is the most profound. Like, you found a stone, and that's all you remember. But that's huge, because a stone represents the true self. In alchemy, it's the stone, it's the individuation, it's usually the plane or the cornerstone, or it's not so, which actually the cornerstone is used in architecture and building, and that's the main stone that keeps everything together. So it's not only the shiny object or the fancy love or if a stone comes in your dream, bless yourself. You've been blessed. And that's another thing. Look at the dream. Read it a couple of times. Read it out a few times. And say, where is the blessing? There's a blessing in here. Now, a blessing is not what we want. A blessing is a gift, an invisible gift that needs to be interpreted at another level. We may not consider no as a blessing. But if you can, I'm always mesmerized by people who will absolutely fight to be right. There's no awareness that there always has to be a shadow or a perhaps. And a lot of times they don't learn anything except the bitterness of being right. We may be right, but if you have that, you're not going to have a lot of friends because you're not relating. Tenderness, it's a very, very powerful to be tender. Most of all towards ourselves, but not filled with sympathy and pity and victimization. Just a tenderness, like, wow, that really hurt. And today I need to. Sometimes that will happen with a dream. I've actually a couple of times just realized I had to cancel a day, whatever I thought I was going to be doing, because the dream was so intense. Because you're physiologically you're changed. I mean, if you're running in a dream, your heartbeat's going up in your body, and the dream would be so traumatic because some great change was coming into my life that I wasn't aware of. So it was letting me know, yo, chill. Everything's changing. So at the end of the dream usually is where the resolution is, or somebody will come in the dream, another person will come in the dream and point to. Or somebody, it's really trippy when an enemy shows up, somebody you really don't like, but they actually have the resolution. So that lets you know, hey, the gold is in your shadow. What you don't know and what you project onto that person, that's actually the attitude you need. or you need a piece of that, or you need to withdraw that projection, which would bring world peace if we could all learn how to withdraw projections that you need. So it's a kaleidoscope of symbols and profound meaning, and you're never alone, because all people dream archetypal symbols, and the dreams do engage your body. And sometimes a nightmare may be a way to inform the dreamer to be more loving, or to cleanse yourself, or go on a detox program. And sometimes we need to tell people this, but once again, I warn, be careful who you tell your dreams to. That's why, it's good if you're working with somebody who understands the power of the dreams and understands what dreams are. So a nightmare can be a cleansing, and the dreamer needs to be told until what the story is out. Sometimes we can have recurring dreams. Those are a beaut. I had a recurring dream once for like 3 years. I just couldn't get it, and it was as if the dream was far beyond any place that I was at. It was like a dream of in the future, and I had to prepare myself to be able to accept the meaning of this dream. And time space is completely different in dreams, not this time and space. So sometimes we need to tell the story again and again, and the dream will give it to us the same essence, but in different stories, sometimes the same exact image. It can be a trauma that the ego, the conscious mind, cannot face. So it will be given in increments so we can get used to remembering. Remember what was dismembered. And you can also have incredibly peaceful dreams that have no conflict. And that's when you don't want to get up. It's just like, no, I want to snuggle in. I want to be still. Okay? So the dream repeats to remind us. And the beauty that is triggered in our hearts, because beauty triggers our hearts. Sometimes paint out the dream. Sometimes I can't get the image, so I'll just draw it out or paint it out or take pictures or Pinterest it. Take different images, go, yeah, it was like that, and then it was like this, and put it together. Because it's all a symbolic language. There's no right or wrong. There's just respect and honoring. And in due time, because we're earnest in our approach to our souls, because the souls creating our reality, whether we're aware of it or not. A person will come in who's really cool with dream interpretation. You'll find a book. You'll take a course. Something will happen. You'll join a group. Also, the Sufis are very powerful in dreams and what they mean. So when you get this feeling, or let's say there's these universal, let's say you dream of teeth falling out. That's always a difficult one. The teeth, bones represent spirit with capital S, because they're enduring. Bones do not dissolve. Bones are forever. And so the teeth are the only bones that are exposed. So here we have this part. And teeth, we bite into something. So sometimes, and we also lose, our milk teeth, our baby teeth. So it can be referring to, wait a second, you got to really bite into something and hold on and rip this apart, using your assertion and your aggression in a positive way. Or it means, you've got to lose this. It's just like, let this immature thought go. What is enduring that is showing itself? Well, the Queen has just told me that I need to leave the kingdom. The Venus Unplugged lady is got to get off it always goes so fast, especially when you love what you're talking about. And I love this, and I love giving this. So happy trails and profound dreaming, and give them a place of honor, because they're giving you a place of honor. And most people dream 6 times a night, so it's like you just don't remember your dream. Now, sometimes also, don't get freaked out about that. Sometimes when so much is going on externally, you're not allowed to really remember your dream. It's too much. You know, psyche does not want to destroy you. It just wants you to be aware. So here's to your imagination and your long weekend. And then school begins next Thursday. Au revoir.
You're gonna kill the love of my life. If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal a truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing.